Let's welcome in Prashant Paroda, Portfolio Manager, Emerging Markets at Allspring Global Investments. Prashant, good to have you with us here, and thanks very much for your time. As someone was, I think it was a meme. It was a picture out of Interstellar, I think when the actors are stuck on a planet, and said 1 day is equal to 7 years. 1 day in Trump land is equal to 7 years under any other president. I think it's absolutely true, right? Staggering amount of headlines, news flow, but what directionally, what is all of it pointing to? Higher markets, lower markets, more US outperformance, or will that start to fade?
So I think clearly the big date that's coming up is April 2nd, I think, which you talked about. And he was today in the cabinet meeting, President Trump was talking about reciprocity being big in this new agenda that he has. I think some of the concern of the market is just uncertainty with how he's going to first do with the Mexico-Canada tariffs, and then he wants to deal with reciprocity across the globe. So I think the markets are going to be range-bound. I think one of the interesting comments that I'm sure you guys have caught as well is they're focused a lot more on the 10-year. The 10-year has eased a bit, which helps sort of the housing industry and mortgage rates in US. So I think right now, only one man knows, which is President Trump, how things are going to behave on April 2nd. But the market does expect some kind of tariff activity post that.
Prashant, just one quick thing. He's delayed Mexico and Canadian tariffs to April, right?
Yeah. So
what is that?
So I think
what does that mean? Is that negotiation?
There's
Still negotiation? Should we go back to believing that, well, this is all negotiating tactic. Everything is up on the table, as opposed to, I think the consensus was that he's got the mandate and he is serious about it. It's thought out, and tariffs will go up substantially, and markets are underpricing it. Which is it?
I think right now, with Mexico and Canada, there's the national security angle that he's playing as well. I think it remains to be seen whether he's happy with all the steps that Mexican and Canadian governments have taken with that regard. So I think there was an interview with the Commerce Secretary as well, where he talked about they're still negotiating. So I think it will always be a game time decision with regards to Mexico and Canada as well. But apart from that is, reciprocal tariffs across the globe that will take into effect on April 2nd as well.
And next on the canvas will be EU with 25%. His words were, it will be 25% generally speaking, and that will be on cars and all of the things. But Prashant, come in the argument between India and China. When Trump took over, everyone thought, well, it's going to be negative for China. Expect big tariffs. There was talk about 60%. But look what's happened since. This year itself, the MSCI China index is up 16%. Money is flowing into China tech, while India is struggling. FII exodus continues. So what's happening on the India versus China debate?
So I think with China, a lot of the expectations, they had a run of almost 3-4 bad years, and a lot of the expectations were way downbeat. And then there was this deep-seek moment where people realized that Chinese continue to work on new technologies and, try to kind of challenge the US field itself. So I think a lot of the activity in the Chinese names has come from the tech side and from the DeepSeek, where people expect some kind of boost to cloud revenue going forward for a lot of these hyperscalers in China. I think longer term, though, India still remains a very important structural market for FIIs. I mean, this year seems to be some sort of digestion year where Somehow the earnings expectations were pretty high, and a lot of the companies are not kind of meeting those expectations, and valuations have corrected. But even within Indian markets, I think you see a lot of divergence, right? So you see some of the financial names, some of the that hadn't performed the last 3, 4 years, they're getting a bid now. And some sectors, such as cement, seem to be doing a little better. So I think it's a very selective market for India in the near term. And it remains to be seen what Trump does with China, because right now it seems he's more focused on Mexico, Canada, and some reciprocity. And also Zelensky is coming in town to sign the trade agreement. So I think dealing with China is kind of later on the table for President Trump.
All right. Hi, Prashant. Good morning and good to see you. And Prashant, just going by the data point that you made, that cement is looking pretty okay. Actually, a lot of economic indicators here in India are looking good. Whether you look at the power consumption, you look at the cement, steel movement as well, credit growth is pretty okay. Given the recent underperformance of the Indian markets, do you think there's a strong case for the Indian markets in the 12 months down the line to actually outperform on? Because we have gone through a period of underperformance, both in comparison to the developed markets like the US, in comparison to the Chinese market as well, which bounced back from multi-month lows. Is there a case for India to outperform from here on?
Yes, you can definitely make the case, and especially selective financials, selective cement industries. I think it's just become a game of expectations, where you'll find a lot of these companies, and the market leadership has changed a bit. So it's okay to kind of focus on companies with sort of muted near-term expectations, where expectations can beat, and those stocks will start outperforming as well. So I don't think you can count out India at all, and this could be just a near-term phenomenon. And once April 2nd is out of the picture, all investors will recalibrate, what it means for each country as well. So I think right now investors are in a wait and see mode till they get more clarity from the White House.
Prashant, just 30 seconds. US data recently, PMI, the Conference Board consumer expectations data, they're all sort of pointing to some softness. Would you pay attention to it? And what does it mean for IT services here in India? Stocks have been weakening last 2 days. Yeah.
Yes, I think there is some sort of weakness in there, and then there's concern about what tariffs will do to inflation. So some sort of consumer confidence numbers have weakened a little bit, but again, we don't know the full clarity of how things will develop. One thing to note is we didn't talk about the budget deficit in US. So the budget deficit, at least what's been approved by Congress, now it will go to the Senate, still talks about a pretty big fiscal deficit number. So I think in the near term, even though Elon Musk and the Doge initiative is still working on cutting the deficit concerns are still there from an investor perspective, and more clarity will be seen towards the end of the year.
All right. Prashant, thank you very much for joining us. Good conversation as always. Thank you for being here.